The most common sleep disorder is called insomnia. There's what we call acute insomnia, and then there's chronic. And it would manifest as either we would struggle to fall asleep, so that would be sleep onset insomnia, and then sleep maintenance insomnia is where we can fall asleep easily, but we wake up somewhere in the middle of the night, usually around 1, 2, 3 in the morning. It's that sort of bewitching hour. And then the third type is called early awakenings insomnia. So you'll wake up at sort of 4 in the morning where you intended to wake up at 7 perhaps, and for love or money you cannot get back to sleep. These three types or manifestations of insomnia need to be present on a minimum of 3 nights per week, and for anything up to 3 months, and then that would be acute insomnia. Persistent or chronic or long-term insomnia is present for more than 3 months. The second most common sleep disorder is something called obstructive sleep apnea. So this is a sleep-related breathing disorder, and what happens is a person is happily snoring away. They're generally really loud snorers, and their partners will be sort of prodding and poking them, trying to turn them over, and then suddenly they'll go dead quiet. What's happened, their upper airways have collapsed, and they're getting no more oxygen to their brain. And so as that oxygen level goes down, the body gets a fright, which causes the person to gasp or snort, and then suddenly they'll start snoring again and start breathing. And those breathing pauses are sort of 10, 15 seconds in duration. They can be up to a minute even. Because of the constant arousals and awakening throughout the nighttime, the cardiovascular system doesn't get the repair and recovery that it needs at nighttime. And so people with obstructive apnea will notice that they start to gain weight, but they'll also notice that their blood pressure starts to go up. And in fact, very often they're being treated for hypertension because their cardiovascular system can't rest during sleep. So I look at sleep in 2 ways. We have sleep disorders, and primarily we're dealing with insomnia and obstructive sleep apnea, and they need to absolutely be diagnosed and well treated and well managed. And then on the other hand, we have disordered sleep, and that is where there are things that we are doing which are impacting our sleep to create low quality sleep. And it may be linked to having had too much caffeine in the daytime, or perhaps we drank too much alcohol, a notorious disturber of sleep, or perhaps we're really stressed for a deadline. And so we are susceptible to these impairments in our sleep, but they generally don't last for very long. They generally resolve as we change our behavior. In fact, as we manage our sleep hygiene, for example. If you do have issues with sleep, it really is best to work with a sleep therapist, because you do need to make sure that you're addressing the right aspects of your sleep. So we can all present with bad sleep, but the reasons for why we might suffer from insomnia might be very different. And the key is actually around treating those particular reasons. In the absence of any well-defined medical condition, these are some tips you can consider. When you actually go to sleep at night, you need to be very sleepy. There's no point in looking at the clock and thinking, oh, I need to go to bed because I've got to wake up at that time and I need to get so many hours of sleep. That's not a great idea, because actually your sleep need changes. What's really important is that you have to be sleepy and tired. Your eyes must be drooping. So on a scale of 0 to 10, where 0 is I'm extremely alert and refreshed and full of beans, and 10 is I'm so sleepy that I actually probably am asleep already, you need to be on an 8, 9, heading towards that 10. So don't get into bed before you're actually sleepy. The second thing that people tend to do when they're having bad sleep is they go into panic mode and they think, well, the way I need to do this, I have to get more sleep. They'll extend their sleep opportunity. And that's usually a disaster, because now you're just creating more time to have bad quality sleep. So we actually recommend that you shorten your sleep period. So push your bedtime as late as you can possibly tolerate, so that you're as tired and sleepy as possible, and you've got much better chance of getting consolidated sleep. You've got this later bedtime and you hop into bed, and now your mind won't switch off and you can't sleep. Well, the first thing that we do is we say, pretend to sleep. You'll start to slow down your breathing. You'll get nice and comfortable. If after about half an hour or so you're still lying there and you're starting to get agitated, hop out of bed, go to a different room. My suggestion is to read a book or do something that is very non-engaging. So you don't want to watch anything that's too exciting. If you've decided to watch TV, keep the lighting level low. You're just trying to distract your brain, basically, and you're trying to just give yourself this chance to come down again. then you need to hop back into bed and try again. So one of the things that we default to when we can't sleep at nighttime, or when we wake up in the middle of the night and can't sleep, is clock watching. As you can't sleep, you think, I wonder what the time is. You lean over, you pick up your phone, you have a look at it. We then start to worry, oh my goodness, now I've been awake for so many minutes or so many hours, and it's happening again, and you're reinforcing this pattern of being awake. But probably more concerning is that then if one can't sleep and that cell phone is at hand, then it's very easy to hop on and start engaging. And then the message we're sending to our body is, hey, it's okay to be awake now. Then that actually just reinforces the sleep habit, because the next night the body thinks, oh, it's okay. If we don't sleep, she's going to wake up and she's going to give me something to do. The other thing, of course, is that sometimes the content that you come across can be quite emotive. So it can be making you super excited, super happy, super sad, or even super stressed. And unfortunately, what studies are showing now is that during the nighttime, adolescents are engaging on social media on their phone, sometimes up to 80, 100 times per night. And that is absolutely not okay. Adolescents need long sleep. They need 8 to 10 hours per night. And the last thing that they need is to have broken sleep through engaging with their phone during the nighttime. And so it's really concerning to think that they might be just reaching over, engaging, putting the phone down again. It means that they're not getting sufficient deep sleep. There's a time and a place for sleeping medication, and in fact, I say that people need to get a sleep medication license. There are definitely instances where a person would benefit from sleeping medication. So for example, you've just lost a husband, a child, there's a deep trauma, and one of the responses to deep trauma is that your body does not let you go to sleep very easily. And so for that very short-term period, and under the guidance of your doctor, using sleeping medication to help a person achieve sleep while they're busy processing such a trauma, it's absolutely warranted. Major surgery, and there's very high levels of pain, but they need to be able to sleep to help them recover. And so in that instance, sleeping medication may also be warranted. Why are we concerned about long-term sleep medication use? Many of them actually reduce the amount of REM sleep that we have. And that's critical, because remember, REM sleep is really important for your psychological repair and recovery, and for your mood and control of emotions, etc. And so you can imagine that if a person is not having sufficient REM sleep, then that can be having an impact in the long term on their mental health. One of the other concerns around sleeping medication is that some of them are addictive. Some of them are physically addictive, but many of them are actually more psychologically addictive. And the problem with that is that once a person starts to believe that they can only sleep with sleeping medication, they lose their confidence in their own ability to sleep. And then restoring sleep without medication is an uphill battle. And so for that reason, we don't like people to be on sleeping medication for too long. So it needs to be for a defined period of time and for a very good reason. I think people don't often realize that the medication that they're using is not actually a true sleeping medication. What most people end up doing is using psychotic medications, so benzodiazepines, for example, or other anti-anxiety or depression medications for their side effects. And the side effects are that these medications can make you feel tired or sleepy, or they can seem to be sleep-inducing, but they're not true hypnotics. If you have anxiety, treat the anxiety with medication by all means if that's what your psychiatrist is suggesting. But I'm not a fan of using anti-anxiety medication, for example, for its side effect to help you sleep, because then I really don't think you're using the medication for the correct purpose, and you're not actually addressing the true sleep issue either. Melatonin is not a sleeping medication. It's what we call a chronobiotic drug. So it helps to shift your body's circadian rhythms. So the easiest way to think about this, I'm sure that some of you have hopped on airplanes and you've traveled east or west, and you would have experienced jet lag. So jet lag is a desynchronization of your body clock with the external light-dark cycle. And so then we would use something like melatonin to re-entrain your body clock to the light-dark cycle so that you can sleep in sync again. Melatonin is super effective if it's used to shift a sleep-wake timing pattern, but it's ineffective as a sleeping medication. It's become quite popular to use products that contain CBD. THC is the compound in, say, marijuana, for example, that will give you that drug high, whereas the CBD products that we are talking about will generally not have any THC in them. So read carefully on the product packaging, because sometimes you'll notice that CBD coexists with THC. And what you don't want to be taking is inadvertently a CBD product which actually has THC in it, if that wasn't your intention to start with. With CBD, there's a lot of controversy around it. There are people that will swear by it and say, this definitely helps me sleep. There's actually no published evidence to suggest that it is any good for your sleep, but neither that it's bad for it either. And so while some people feel that it makes a very big difference to them, it may be a placebo effect, or it may be that it's having some other effect on them. Perhaps it's helping to relax them to some extent, which actually then in turn enables them to have better sleep.